Hello guys. My pool pump started getting really hot and creating this weird noise. I also noticed that it like started smelling like burning plastic. So I decided to replace it instead of like repairing. So this is what I'm trying to do now. I've never tried before. Uh, but let's see if I can just replace this motor without calling the service experts. And let's see how easy is this job. So as you can see, I already removed the motor from the my cleaning system. This was really easy, just 4 bolts, and that's what you end up with. In this case, we're dealing with Century HSQ165 motor. Uh, and I just decided just to go with the same one. I didn't want to go with the dual speed or anything, just gotta like keep it simple. My pool is only 5,700 gallons, so it doesn't really take that much pool. Okay, so what we have here when you actually remove your pump, so you end up with this parts, and as you can see, you don't really need that much tools in this case. So I'm using this wrench 716. You'll find out why I use later. This was a socket 15 millimeters that's I used to remove the bolts. As you can see, that's to remove the bolts. Other things, will come, later. You'll see why I needed them, because I'm just anticipating that I'm needing them. All right, so we're starting with, again, I'm not gonna call it as I'm an, so as an amateur, I'm not sure like what this part called, so just use your intuition and you just remove this 3 screws. One thing I do recommend and to use the so what you want to do before removing anything, you want to mark it. So as I can see, I mark it here, so I know, when I'm going to be reassemble this, I know, what matches what. So I mark, as you see, as I removing parts, I marking them, and that's really important, or at least it helps. So and these bolts here. That's pretty easily removed. And we can put it aside. Now, as you notice, the O-ring is already lubricated. And for this purpose, I use silicone grease, which is fine for this particular application. It's not probably applicable for the next steps, but just for this, because this part is not movable. So this should work, and you can remove the ring, clean it with a glass cleaner, and then just put it back. That should work. All right, so we're putting this aside. Okay, and let's put aside our new motor. So now we need to remove this thing. So you can't really remove it because obviously it keeps spinning. So one thing you want to do, and as you see, I already unscrewed that. So you remove this cover. As you see, it's a Century. And that's where this actual wrench comes handy, because what you need is actually block it from entering. So once you fix it, as you can see, now it's fixed. So now I can just use my hand, or actually I can use this screwdriver. Some people use wrenches, but I feel like they may damage it. you know, that should work just fine. And you just, let's see, make sure it's all fixed there. Yeah. All right. So now, so we end up with the seal. So the idea when you're replacing the motor, certainly. Okay. So once we removed, you know, that this part, whatever it's called. So this is how it looks. Again, what's important when you look at this is kind of like make a mark where what is orientation of this particular seal. In this case, it doesn't make sense to mark it because I'm going to be replacing it. And what I have here, and this is the replacement part, looks a little different. So, but I need to know exactly which side to put it. Okay, so let's put this aside here. So this is really easily removed. Now what I notice, see this hard side, this ceramic side, and that's what needs to always face that seal inside. All right, so I'm gonna put it aside here. Now I need to remove this part. All right, so now I end up with the seal that I need to remove. And you know, you don't want to just, if you just try to push it, it's not gonna go. So what you want to do, or at least one of the options, if you have an old wine bottle cork, so what you can do, you can just see fits perfectly and just gently tap. See? Works like a charm. Okay, and now the reason is you don't really like care about these things, but it's just I think you don't want to like break things. Who knows? Maybe this part is still good, you know. All right, so now we need to put this back, and as you remember, so this is a ceramic part, this is the rubber part. So the idea is, so you, according to the instructions, it says that you need to use water-based lubricant. And when I look in my house, okay, so now, so we end up with this seal, and it is recommended according to the manufacturer instructions to use a water-based sealant. And when I look around my house, all I was able to find is this water-based. It says water-based. That's the most important, long-lasting, no drip, easy cleanup. That's what I need. Exactly, because it's remember, this is just to insert this O-ring into that hole there. So definitely want to clean the hole. All right, the hole is now clean, and you just use your fingers because this is water-based, so it's easily removed, and you just gently lubricate this O-ring, and again, and once it's lubricated, easily can be inserted inside. Don't need to use any tools even. See? That's a power lubrication, no tools required. All right, so that is done. Now see, I just, oh, now, all right, so we also, this is the main part of that seal, and again, we're using the water-based lubrication again. This is a short-term as the instruction says, because this is just to install it, to insert it. Okay, so you just lubricate it with your finger. Remember, that's the hard part right there, the ceramic, and this is the rubber. So this needs to go here, because the ceramic is here, ceramic is there. And yeah, that's how it should be. Okay, so all right, so now we can take aside our old motor. Let's bring the motor here. Okay, and we'll remove the tip, protective tip. Protection is always important. And now, so looking at the back, so see the mark that I did here, and that was the mark actually where the label was. So all you do is just insert it, and it fits perfectly. So now again, I'm taking the seal with the hard or ceramic side, and I insert it like that, right? One thing that I want to do in this point, I want to fix, you know, this part to my new engine, so they already don't move, and that I don't have to deal with jiggling these things. You know, there's another screw here, right there. Oh, oops. You don't have to tighten them too much, because right now this is more just so it doesn't fall apart. Okay. All right, so now, so that was the old part with the ceramic here. So that's the old one. So as you can see, I replaced it. So now let's put that flanger back. And so first you just use your hand. And then again, like on the old one, use the wrench. And let's see, so you just, so as you can see, and now see, I'm actually tightening it. And you see how it, okay. Now, a lot of people may think, okay, how tight it needs to be. You know, you don't want to over tight it, definitely. So in my case, I'll just use just a little bit. Of course, just not too much. That's it. Just a little bit, you know, so just more than your hand. And again, that for this particular, that works perfectly. Yeah. All right, so now I'm putting the cover back, and as you see, I made my marks with a permanent marker, so I know exactly the orientation, and that's a pretty easy job. Water is clean. Put back the cover. Again, I still use silicone lubricant on the seal, and actually you can use just one hand, so you don't have to put too much torque on that. So we checked the water filter. This is a release pressure valve, so make sure it's there. So right, so let's see if our project has successfully ended. So, с чего мне начинать? The pressure release valve is tight, so everything looks good to launch. This is not space rocket, but you know, and it doesn't need to fly. We definitely don't want it to fly anyway. So let's turn on the breaker, and here's the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and launch. Wow. As you can see, nice noise, and much better than the old one. Temperature is stable. The water starts filling. So that's pretty much all. The whole project took me probably 30 minutes, assuming you have all the parts. And it's really a fun project if you just don't intimidated to try something different. Nothing worse could happen. Just make sure you turn off, obviously, the breaker and the timer. You can use the circuit breaker, but there's usually a circuit breaker here. There's double circuit breaker. So foolproof. Again, the wiring. Remove this, remove that. You remove actually starting, when you're removing the motor, you actually remove these 4 bolts here. So you take this assembly out. Obviously before that you remove the wiring. You take this out, 3 screws, take them out, fish out the wiring, 4 bolts there, remove it. This one also removed, that's the ground. And that's pretty much all. If you have any questions, please follow me. Thank you so much.